Şimdi wani flogo da kuma ka da wani ya wanda na
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our online webinar on financial literacy and money management. And today we will have on the host myself, Stephen Akobe, and Dr. Yawat Ansel Michel, who would be my co-host for this meeting. And not forgetting our able team member, Madame Bernadette Andom, who is equally here with us. We are about to begin, but we were giving the other participants some time to begin the meeting and such that they can join us and then we can begin fully. But without further ado, I think it's 11 minutes past the hour of 2. We give them 4 more minutes and afterwards we begin the meeting officially. Thank you for your patience. Good afternoon once more, and welcome to the Channeling Intellectual Potential program, a virtual series for young people in personal and professional skills development. Today, our topic of focus shall be financial literacy and money management, presented by myself, Stephen A. Kube. I will be assisted throughout this process with Dr. Anselm Yawat Michel and Madame Andom Bernadette. And in attendance, we have other CIP participants with us. And if you're joining us and you're not a CIP participant, you're equally welcome to participate in this learning session. And first and foremost, I will be running a quiz. It should be launched anytime from now. Kindly take your time to answer the polls, and then 1 minute or two, and we'll be able to get the details within the pool. It should be arriving your screens anytime from now, so kindly have a look at it. Thank you. Keep them coming. Take your time to answer the poll. You have 2 minutes to do that, and we can proceed. Hello, everyone. Currently, a poll is running. You should have received a notification for a poll. Kindly take your time to respond to the poll and submit it. So far, we've had only 4 persons who have responded in attendance from the persons who are in the meeting. So kindly respond to the poll. If you're still just joining us, there's a pool which is currently running. Kindly participate in the pool and submit your response to the pool. Thank you very much. It's soon closing in under 20 seconds.
Hello, Stephen. Good afternoon to all.
Good afternoon, Yawat.
Hope you're doing good.
Good. And you?
I'm good, bro.
Wonderful. Pleased to have you on air, my brother.
It's a pleasure having you also, bro.
Someone is asking me from the chat section how you participate. Look at the top right corner of your screen. There should be a notification that says a poll is running. Click on it, and then you should be able to respond to the poll. I don't know if I've answered your question, Obaso. Raising your hand would simply let me know that you've gotten the response and you found your solution. Okay, and the pool then ends. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for taking your time to respond to the poll. And you should be receiving the results anytime soon. Can you all see the results? Can you all see the results? Anyone? Dr. Yawat? I can barely hear you. The network is breaking on your end.
I'm getting you perfectly.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yes, can you see the results of the pool?
Yeah, I can see the results.
Yes, I can see the results.
Okay, okay, that's great. So only 60% of those who are present have participated in the pool. And based on the pool's results, we have 6 of them who are 5 on 6 who are CIP participants and 1 who is a non-CIP participant. And then how did they hear about the meeting? 3 say they heard from CIP, and 2 say they heard from a friend, and 1 says from other sources. And lastly, every other person answered yes to the question. They would like to participate in the next webinar. We'll do well to answer this, and probably the poll would probably run again sometime mid-session or towards the end of the presentation to have other persons participate in it, and then we can get the demographics for the next set of meetings. Thank you very much. And we are set to go. So I'm going to turn off the music. So once more, welcome to the CIP programs series today on financial literacy and money management. I will be your host and presenter for today's session. And kindly, in CIP, we have the slogan, CIP, we engage the mind, CIP, dare to think, CIP, change the narrative. And essentially, the idea behind it is that when we say CIP, we respond, engage the mind. CIP, can you all turn on your mics and then let's do this exercise before we begin? CIP,
Engage the mind.
Engage the mind.
CIP,
Dare to
Engage
think.
the mind.
CIP,
Engage the mind.
Engage the mind.
yeah, the next word and the next part, the next sentence and the next, such that we go CIP.
Engage
Dare
the
to
mind.
think.
Okay, let's take it from the top. CIP,
Engage
Engage the mind.
CIP,
Dare
Dare
to
to
think.
think.
Engage the mind.
CIP,
Change the narrative.
Change the narrative.
and this is how it feels like CIP, engage the mind. CIP, dare to think. CIP, change the narrative. and we go in like we make it sound like it's a rhyme scheme such that we all get the slogan for CIP, and it becomes a part of our movement and a part of this whole idea in engaging the mind, daring to think and changing the narrative. So thank you very much as we begin the session. So just a basic housekeeping, keep your videos off to conserve bandwidth. Then you would have 1 minute or two to introduce yourselves. And that would probably be when you wish to ask a question, such that you can state your name, your profession, your function, what you do, and expectations for the day. And then when you're not speaking, you can have your mics muted and your videos put off. And if you wish to speak, raise your hand, and then maintain silence when in session and respect the facilitators. If in a noisy environment, leave the message in the comment section and we'll be sure to respond to the message. So moving forward, I am your host today, and Stephen, and I'm a humanitarian in human resources and administration. And I hold a Bachelor of Philosophy and a postgraduate diploma in mechanical engineering from the Catholic University of Cameroon and the University of Bamenda. I am a Young African Leaders Initiative Regional Learning Center West African Fellow of the 42nd cohort, and the current Secretary General of Family World International. I'm equally a writer, a poet, and a literary enthusiast. And I am affiliated with Writers Space Africa, WSA, and the Online Book Club. And so essentially, that's the long and short of the person who is presenting today, my very humble self. So our topic of today is financial literacy and money management. And I will be the host, and my co-host, Dr. Yawat Anselm Michel, would be my co-host and practically part of the session too. He would get to share his experience, as well as Madame Andong Benedette, who is equally one of our team, very key team members, who would be sharing her own experience as a result of the topic that we're discussing today, financial literacy and money management. So for today, I just want us to take a moment and then think for ourselves. What do you think financial literacy is all about? I believe if we can look at it, basically, we're going to be exploring the importance of financial literacy and how it impacts us in our society, both in our professional and personal lives. But essentially, what do you think financial literacy is? A question. You had a quick peek to see. I wish to hear your reactions. Anyone, you can raise your hand, and then I'll be sure to give you the floor to speak, and we can hear what you have to say. What do you think financial literacy is all about? Any takers? Hands? I can't see any hands. Or am I talking to myself? Hello?
Maybe the answer is obvious. Nobody knows about it. Maybe.
Okay, Flavian, your hand is up, please. Let's hear what Flavian has to say. Thank you, Flavian.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think financial literacy is all about having knowledge, being able to manage finances. I think
Yeah.
that's what I think.
Very correct. Next. Any other impression? You can raise down your hand.
So Stephen,
Yes, Madam.
I don't know
Benedette.
whether I can add my voice. I think apart from being able to manage finances is the ability to have the skills that will help you to manage the finances.
The ability to have the skills that will help you to manage the finances. So we have two, and they are all correct. Well, there are no wrong answers. Please do not be frightened. There are no wrong answers to this question. All answers are correct. Just let us know what you think financial literacy is all about. Any takers?
I think if I want to give my own point of view about financial literacy, I think it is the potential and the capability, the potential ideas and capability that will lead you in managing your finances.
Mhm. Okay, thank you very much. I think we can leave it at that, and we move forward to the next bit of what we have for today. So essentially, financial literacy, it's the knowledge and the understanding of financial concepts and the tools that enable individuals to make informed decisions about their money. So basically, all the answers you've given were all a part of the response, and it tells us essentially what financial literacy is all about. If you've been able to manage a business of your own at any point in time, or you've been working and you maybe earn a salary at the end of the month, you would be certain that you need to learn how to better manage that amount of money. What percentage of that money goes to the bills? What percentage of that money goes to food and groceries? What particular percentage goes to paying off your bills in the house, both electricity, your entertainment, the internet connection, etc. You notice that all of these are a part and parcel of what financial literacy is. And moving forward, we will find the intricate basics about financial literacy, and it brings us to the basics of personal finance. And we're going to be talking about income, we're going to be talking about expense, we're going to be talking about budgeting. And talking about these various aspects, first, what is an income? An income is the money you earn, whether it's from a job like a salary or your wages, or a side business or other sources. A good number of us have more than one business at a time. Some do various side hustles. Some work in official organizations, and at the day's end, when they maybe probably retire after work, they are also engaged in other businesses. Others have a business which works for them, and while they are also focused on some other thing. And whatever you earn as a result of these things that you do, and it comes into your account or as a credit into your account, is regarded as an income. What you receive at the day's end, something you earn as a result of some work you've done, or some setup or investment in which you put yourself in. So all those are a part and parcel of what makes up an income. Expenses are the various costs which you have, such as rents. They could be bills, they could be groceries, there could be entertainment, there could be the cable or internet. We talked about those. And you will notice that a good number of us have lots of expenses. And these expenses could be likened to what we call liabilities. And because liabilities are things that do not profit us, but rather we lose them as a result of our engagement or doing whatsoever we do with our money and with our finances. Lots of liabilities come up every now and then, and we find ourselves getting into it. If you own a credit card, for example, you will notice that you have a huge liability on your credit card, like the interest that you have to pay as a result of the credit card charges that are associated to it. And you would equally bear witness to that. If you have an internet connection, you have to buy data bundles. A good number of you had to convert data bundles to be a part of this session today. And that's a liability because you were losing money as a result of it. And at the same time too, you maybe probably have a TV set at home and you're using a cable connection. You definitely have to pay for a cable subscription. Either you're doing a cable subscription through Canal Plus, or you're doing a cable connection through DSTV. In either cases, you're paying something for entertainment or for some other expense which you have to pay for. But this is one thing you need to understand, that for an expense to exist, there must be an income somewhere. So you cannot expense what you don't have. You cannot spend what you don't have. And alternatively, it goes back to say you cannot give what you don't have. And that's what expenses are. And a good number of us spend a lot. Then budgeting, which is the next item on our list of today. Budgeting, it's what gives us a clear picture of how we are going to spend the income that we have. And based on that income, what percentage do I save? What percentage do I spend on food? What percentage do I spend on the entertainment? What percentage do I spend on this or that particular item? Your budgeting helps you to create and allocate sums of money based on your income to the various expenses and your various goals. And other times it could be that you need to budget for an investment that you have, maybe a business of your own, which you're probably starting up. You definitely need to do budgeting about that. And you cannot budget from space. You budget based on what you have at hand. You must have some form of finance and some form of income in order to carry out a budgeting. And looking at this image here, the basics of finance, we're still talking about several factors here. And what would you tell me if I asked you the question? Tell me about your money management skills. How do you manage your personal finances? I just wish to know from the various participants on this online webinar, what are your money management skills? Can you effectively manage the money that you have at your hands or you have in hand? Answers? Anyone? Silence at times often tells me that no one is willing to take up the mic. But if you're not, we're moving forward still. But based on the image which you see before you, you see poor, you see middle class, and you have rich. And there's one thing that happens with each and every one of us. Okay, for Baso, you wish to try? Let's hear it.
Okay, thank you so much. Person like me, the way I manage my own finance, when I have sometimes I do invest, and there are some parts that I keep. For example, I go in for not too expensive things, something that is affordable, that can I will not spend too much of my money on something. Those things, I mean, things that are moderate. For example, if I have to have a phone, I'll not go to a phone of 1 million. Something like 300,000 is enough, for example. And if I want to go for gadgets, I know that I have my limits. I don't go for too expensive. I have something that have the it's affordable, has the space that I need to do what I want to do with the object or the tool. So I manage my so in such a way that I still have enough to save for the future. If there's something that comes up, I don't just finish all my money I have at hand. I keep something that for unexpected things that comes. Yeah, so that's how I do manage myself. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kobaso. Thank you for that very wonderful input. It really puts a lot of things into perspective, and it would get us down to part of the business today. So moving forward, what else do we have? Any other person? Okay, so if there's none, we move on. So you look at the headings, we have the poor, you have the middle class, and you have the rich. These are the various classes of persons which we have in society. And amongst these various classes of people, you have the poor person looks for a job. They get an income, which is probably their salary, but you find that they have a ton of expenses at their disposal. Their expenses include taxes, they include rent, they include food, they include transportation, they include clothing, and they probably include school fees for children. They probably include various other things which come as a result of it. And then you find it's difficult for them to really fit their needs within their means. And you find them spending a lot, all of the money that they have. And that's why you see the curve from there. You see from the job through the salary, and then it goes through the expenses and out. And then they go back again the next month to hope that probably their job is going to sustain them again for the next month. And they keep living like that. It's a hand-to-mouth system of living, where you make some expense, you get an income, and then you expense most of it. And when you look at the income statement of the balance sheet of a poor person, you notice that they have no assets and they have no liabilities. Without assets, they have no asset, no liability. They have no assets, they have no liabilities. And you find it's very difficult for them to find the means of sustenance. And likewise, when you look at the income statement of probably someone who is in the middle class, you notice that they probably get a job, they get a salary, they equally have tons of expenses which they have to spend on, but they have a whole lot of liabilities. Look at the liabilities that they have down there. And the liabilities include mortgages, they include car loans, they include credit card debts, they include school loans. And they have expenses waiting for them like taxes, they have mortgage payments, mostly payments made on the buildings that they live in, and car payments, probably fuel, probably licenses which they have to get, Visit Technique, etc., etc. And then you have credit card payments, you have school loan payments, and then you see they have no assets. Assets are zero. So without those assets, they have a ton of liabilities, and you see that it tunnels through their liabilities all through the way out. And that's exactly what makes it very difficult for them. Then for the rich, look at their income statements. You have an income statement, they have an income that comes in from several sources. An income that comes in from their rental income, maybe houses that they own and rents are being paid. Then dividends, which they have probably bought shares at a particular company, and as a result of those shares, they are being given a dividend, and even at the banks as well, for those particular services that are being given because they had shares in that company. They had interests, they had royalties, which were all a part of their income. But look at their expenses below here. You would find that for their expenses, we have for their expenses, they have taxes, they have mortgage payment, and then for their assets, they have real estate, stocks, bonds, notes, intellectual property. And you'll find real estates are buildings, stocks probably on the stock market. They have bonds, which they have probably gotten. They have notes, they have intellectual property, and their liabilities, they have mortgages, they have consumer loans, and they have credit card loans, which they definitely have to pay. And you find that from all of this, they have very fewer expenses. But because they have fewer expenses, you find they don't spend a lot of their money, but they have other sources of income, and assets to them. Assets are like their income as well, because assets bring in a lot of revenue for them. Imagine the type of access they get from real estate, maybe persons who buy buildings, etc. So moving forward, we'll have the chance to talk about that. Let's not spend too much time on that. And you would find that all right. So according to Robert Kiyosaki, you have two sets of persons in society, and you find the persons who are probably employees, you have they are self-employed, and then you have business owners, and you have investors. Each one designated by the letter of the alphabet. That's the employees designated by the letter E. 100% multiplied by 1, which gives them income. So they basically focus on their job themselves, and then their job, which gives them an income. They focus on the skills that they have, the work that they do, such that it gives them an income. And then moving forward to the equally, you notice that their time is equal to the money that they make. So they have no leverage. But now for the self-employed person, they own a job. But for the job that they own, a good number of them probably do trade, and they give their time in exchange for the for money. And in exchange for the money that they get, the money itself provides other means for them to probably scale up their businesses and move on to the next level. And next, we have business owners. And business owners are persons who they work with themselves and with other people in order to make an income. And so the people do the work for them, and then they make the money as a result. And then moving forward, we equally have persons who are investors, and a good lot of investors. You notice that they invest in what other people have begun, maybe other business owners. They invest in other business owners. They invest in other self-employed persons. And then while the self-employed persons work and they make an income, they all just sit back there and they wait for the money to come reach them. So for the persons on the left-hand side, you find that income not dependent on their presence. And then for the persons on the right-hand side, you have the persons with income that is not dependent on your presence. And on the left-hand side, you have income of persons which is very much dependent on their presence. and it makes it very difficult for most persons to go on. So the essence of all this is such that we can understand how the world functions amongst the 4 classes of persons. Asking you the question, where do you belong? Type that in the chat section. Where do you belong amongst this circle? Are you an employee? Are you self-employed? Are you a business owner? Are you an investor? Can we have the responses within the chat box? Yes, Ronaldo, your hand is up. You have the mic. You have the floor. Unmute yourself and speak, please. Ronaldo, unmute yourself and speak. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you get me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Sorry, I raised my hand before you said through the text message. I wanted to indicate that an employee.
Okay, okay. All right. Was that it?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm still waiting for the presence in the chat box. I can't see the responses yet. What are you? If you're an employee, just type E. If you're a business owner, type B. If you're an investor, type I. If you're a self-employed person, type S. Let's get those responses rolling from the chat box, please. Yes, Flavian, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I was just wondering because what of those who depend on one of these 4 categories, like a student, where do they fall?
I think I've not understood your question. Come again.
I'm asking that what of someone who depends on maybe at least one of these 4 categories of person?
Okay, you're a dependent on one of them. You're not working, but you're dependent on either an investor, an employee, a business owner, and self-employed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we didn't really take time to think about that, but typically, if you are dependent on any one of them, we will refer to you as a leech, because you're leeching on each and every one of them in order to survive. Because basically in society, you must fall on every one of them. And if you're not falling on any one of them, you're actually a leech on one of these 4 sets of persons. But eventually, and I think your question which you asked is a very good question, because children and children are probably children of investors, children of self-employed persons, children of employees, children of business owners. They all fall under that category. And the category where you fall in does not necessarily define you, but you can make it an effort to find yourself in a different category. So you might be a child of an employee, which makes you to an employee, because basically you are definitely doing all that you can in order to make sure that the income of that particular employee is being used judiciously. And if they are investing in you, they are hoping that probably you would plow back in something. And at one point in time, you notice that your parents become like investors, because they may probably invest in training you for a particular skill that they believe that if you do get a means of sustenance on your own, they no longer have to spend on you. So it means more income for them, as they no longer have to bother about taking care of you. And I think it applies to every other person within the circle in either way. So let's hear about it. Did I answer your question correctly, or are you satisfied?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. So from the chat box, we could see somebody like Bernadette, who says, not Bernadette. Hello?
Stephen, are you getting me?
Yes, I am.
Question, please. Is this session being recorded?
It's been recorded.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Steve, I was about typing something. I didn't actually finish it because maybe I thought that maybe a word or two from me could add up to something to what you're discussing.
Okay. We'll give you the floor about that. Let's just run through this such that we can catch up with time. Let's not be behind time.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So we have Engelbert, who says he's self-employed. We have Obaso, who says he's an employee. We have Ronaldo, who says an employee. Clovis, who says he's an employee. And The other persons who have not neither indicated who they are. Are you all leeches? Leeching on either the employee, business owners, investors, or self-employed persons? In either case, fine and good. Thank you for your responses. So moving forward, you'll notice this gives you a clear picture of what it is about what Robert Kiyosaki is simply talking about when it comes to financial literacy. You have the employed, you exchange your time and your effort for an income. You don't work, you do not get paid. So if you don't work, you don't get paid. And so you must work in order to earn money. Then for the self-employed person, the person you work for yourself, but can you take maybe 6 days out of your work days and then simply just enjoy yourself away from your business? That's the question which you should be asking yourself. Remember, at CIP, we are engaging your mind such that you think out of the box and then think within the box, within the gray areas of the box that you do not see. Try to highlight the light within those areas of the box that you don't see, and don't even see the box. For those of you who are probably trying to look outside of the box, at times it's not necessary for you to even see the box. But the point which we're trying to make here is ask yourself those pertinent questions. If you're self-employed, can you take off maybe 4 days or an entire week off business and still be able to make a profit? And following through with that, we equally have business persons who these people have people working hard for them to generate an income. And then we have investors. They are the people that have money working hard for them. Yet they spend all their time enjoying. You find them on golf clubs. You have them living the good life, the life that each and every one of you listening to me right now probably wishes for yourself, but you do not have the time to probably invest in it because you do not know how to get there. So the question you should be asking yourself as an employee, for those of you answers that you were employees, can your income bring you to the level of an investor where you live the good life that you envisage for yourself? As a self-employed person, can you live the good life that you envisage for yourself? And as a big business owner, can you live the good life that you wish for yourself besides all this? So in every state of life where you are, ask yourself these questions. Do you want to be the active person who is actively working every now and then probably spending a lot of the income which you make from the revenue which you get from your salary, etc., and then probably see no profits as a result? Or are you willing to be a passive person who probably has given their effort and their time and their limb to work hard in order to reach at that level of attainment where they simply have their money working for them? So moving forward, these are some of the things which I wish you to think about as we go through this webinar session, and then kindly ask yourself what you need to do in order to be better than you were yesterday. So basically, we'll talk about creating a budget, which are some of the things which would probably get you to understanding how you manage your finances. Budgets are very, very important, like I mentioned earlier. And because budgets are pretty important, these budgets help you to outline the key things which you wish to spend your income on. But how do you do that? You need to start by listing your monthly income and then allocate funds to essentials like rents, bills, and groceries. And like Noe rightly said when he answered the question, he asks himself if he needs what he is about to purchase. And if he doesn't need what he's about to purchase, he doesn't purchase it at all. And so that way he doesn't spend from his income. And a good number of us, probably when you receive your salary at the end of the month, the first thing you do is that you have the money in your pocket and you're out there probably on the street. Then you meet a bunch of friends and then you find yourself spending over 50% of your income on drinks and probably having the good life with them. But when you have that good life with them, what happens to your income? It cuts down into 2 and you're unable to probably survive for the remainder of the month, making it very difficult. This is where budgeting comes in. And you can always find better ways of budgeting, like if you maybe get a pay, find a way to save up most of the money. And if you're saving up most of the money, what percentage goes to rents. So you need to produce a table, for example, where you have your income and then you have your expenses. Then you list the expenses. The first expense, for example, rents. The second one, bills. The next one, groceries. The next one, probably internet connection, transportation. You list those expenses down, and then you allocate the amount of money which you think is sufficient to run for a particular period of time. For example, you can do a budgeting, which is a weekly budget sheet, or you can have a monthly budget sheet where you simply budget the amount that you have for an entire month or a particular period of time, maybe for a week. But in either case, you need to have these things listed down, and then you segregate the money which you've received into various portions which are enough for the various expenses, such that you have enough to save up. And then equally, always when you're budgeting, do not forget to add a list of miscellaneous for unexpected emergencies, etc. And imagine, you need to know that your savings, for example, are your emergency safe net. That's what savings are for. They are for emergencies like the hospital, things that you cannot plan for, you do not wish for them to happen. And then probably you get your goods lost as a result of a business, maybe in a fire. And then you need to use your emergency fund in order to help you recuperate and then get back on track. So have these things at the back of your mind. Make sure to leave room for savings and then give yourself enough flexibility, and then regularly review and adjust your budget. Once you draw your budget, you'll notice that your budget needs to be flexible, because if it's not flexible, you notice lots of things to come in as a result of the week, and then you find yourself getting stuck. But having a rigid budget as well equally helps you to plan hard and well for yourself. So if you ask yourself the question, if I budgeted 10,000 francs for transportation, and then all of a sudden the transportation goes up, and you cannot be flexible in order to fix up the budget because your income cannot accommodate that increase of the transportation. Now you're being constrained by your income. You cannot spend more than what you have. What you need to consider at that point in time is ask yourself the question, what can I do within these particular constraints in order to still be able to spend just 10,000 francs of my income on transportation, irrespective of the rise in fuel or rise in transportation costs. For example, you might tell yourself, okay, if I used to pay maybe a taxi from my doorstep to my place of work, I'll probably trek 30 minutes, and then I'll probably wake up early, then leave the house a little bit much more earlier, such that I gain on time, and then trek for about 30 minutes and then pay the taxi for the remainder of the distance, such that I can be able to save up and work within my budget means. These are some of the things that making a budget helps you to think critically. It really helps you to appreciate how you can constrain yourself within your budget, and then you work within your means. Don't take a debt in order to live above your means. Work within your means, and then don't budget your money based on something which you've borrowed or something which you've taken as a loan. There will be times when loans are very important, and I do not regard loans as something which is negative. You have positive effects of debts, and you have negative effects of debts. And because of each one of them, you need to find the common place which you focus on, the ones that do not drain you, or if you're certain of paying them, you focus on those. For those that you're not certain of paying them, it's best to avoid them, because they will only put you in a very tight spot, which you find yourself unable to get out of. So managing debt, which is our next point here, that is a common part of everyone's life, as I was already saying. So to manage debt, you need to create a repayment plan. You need to prioritize high interest debt and avoid taking on unnecessary debt. And at times, a good number of us may take a loan and then, or maybe get ourselves indebted just because we want to buy fancy clothes. You saw some shoes, and then at the shop, and you wanted to buy some of those shoes, you wanted to buy some of those groceries, you wanted to buy this and that. But essentially, do you need those things? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself. So you need to work within your means. And if you're taking that debt, if you're taking on a debt, always make sure you have an exit plan or an exit strategy. And be able to differentiate between good debt and bad debt, because good debts could be things like investment in your education or in your learning. A good number of you have signed on to this because you believe that it is some form of enrichment on yourself. It's an education for yourself, which you're getting for free. And since you're getting it for free, it's no longer a debt anymore. It's something you can get. But in other circumstances, you will need to pay for the services. And those are the type of things which we say are good debts, because you pay for it, and then in exchange, you get the knowledge which will help you to better manage your finances and your income. And moving forward, you're able to do much more and then earn much more as a result of the education which you got. And then you notice too that bad debts may include in things like high credit cards. For those of you who own credit cards, you may be very tempted to swipe your credit card anytime and now, because you have your credit card handy at your hand, and maybe make a payment online, etc. Just because you have it, and you just spend it, not because you actually need to spend. So ask yourself those critical questions whenever you're faced with the issue of debt or taking on a loan. And then saving and investing are very, very important here. Saving is the most fundamental aspect of financial literacy. And then investing is the next step that takes you to financial freedom. And your goals here should be that you save enough such that you can be able to meet up with your emergency and probably for your retirement. So start by setting the financial goals, and those financial goals must include something like your emergency fund or saving for your retirement. And explore various saving and investment options such as high yield saving accounts or investment vehicles like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. At times you may buy stocks, and at times you may acquire some bonds in order to be able to liberate those bonds to get maybe a high yield, or you may even get into real estate business. You find an old building which is probably dilapidating. You buy it at a very cheaper cost. You spend some money on it. You invest some money in it, refurbish the building, have it roofed, have good doors, paint it well, and then you put it out on rent at a very high, at a much higher rate, and then you'll be able to make some income as a result of that saving. And a good thing too, which we've noticed too, most cases around Cameroon, is that you have persons who are probably giving off land at very cheap prices. Why not acquire this land? Maybe you might have land at about 800,000. Acquire the land. That's very good investment. That's a very good asset. That's a landed property. Getting a landed property of that sort equally gives you something that its value adds over the years based on where the place is. And so as the years passes, the value of that particular piece of land increases in such a way that in about 2, 3 years, 4 years, you might sell it at twice the amount of money which you purchased the land for. Those are some of the investments which you can start thinking of. Then remember to consider risk tolerance and consult with a financial advisor if needed. I am no financial advisor. I'm equally learning the ropes, and I'm equally employed myself. But at the same time, I'm looking for a way of getting that financial freedom, which I need for my own person, but using these simple basic techniques of financial literacy in order to effectively manage the finances within my means. So next, you will need to protect your finances. Protecting your finances here is pretty important, and it's things like you need to probably pay an insurance, and then you equally need to manage risks such as health, property, and life. And then you equally notice that when it comes to protecting your finances, your mind is your greatest asset. And if you can work as much as possible in protecting that asset of yours and then giving it the maximum protection that you need, you've already gained. And how do you protect your mind, which is your greatest asset that you have? You protect your mind by reading smart, read intelligent books, which gives you information that you probably not have any time of the day. And then invest in spending time with persons who influence you and really inspire you to do much more. That's how you that's how you actually invest in your mind, and then you protect it from other leeches and other sources the word is not coming to mind. You protect your mind against other insecurities which may cause you to move in, and then things like drugs, alcohol, and then spending excessively on women, and then maybe just partying, having sex excessively just for the pleasure of it, for the hedonistic pleasure of it. So you need to cut down on some of those things, and then equally cut down on your watching of pornography. It's not helping you anymore. And those are some of the things too that you need to protect your mind against. So your mind is your greatest asset, and what you think, that is what you are. And if you spend your time around people who think very negatively, you begin thinking negatively as well. So think of your greatest asset and protect it and emphasize in your mind, because we are on channeling your intellectual potential. And if we're channeling your intellectual potential, it's about your mindset, and your mindset needs to be at its best in order to be productive and to be able to give you the results that you need. So I'll just want you to take a few moments and then watch this video and give me your feedback.
3,276,948. At the time of this recording, that is how many years Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX and Tesla, could survive into the future if he were to spend the average American salary of $56,516 per year. Put another way, even if you were able to save an unrealistic 50% of your salary and stash it under the mattress every year, it would take you 6.5 million years to save your way to Elon's wealth. Okay, I get it. So we can't all be the richest people on the planet. But how about $1 million? Surely that couldn't be that hard, right? Well, let's say you're the average engineer earning $80,000 per year. It would take 16 years just to earn $1 million. But that doesn't include rent, food, cost of living. And if you diligently and consistently save 10% of your earnings, it would take 156 years to save your way to $1 million. The average teacher, 217 years. A bartender, 625 years. You see, for the rich, wealth is measured in time. If you lost your job tomorrow, how many days, months, or years could you survive on your savings? That is the definition of wealth. So how long could you survive? This book will give you the financial intelligence that you probably missed out on growing up. The secret financial intelligence that wealthy families pass on from generation to generation. The education system and your parents forgot to teach you. Not getting this information is why so many people remain forever stuck in the rat race. By the end of this video, you will know 95% of everything this book has to offer. You will have a bird's eye view of all the most important concepts and quotes that will change your perception of wealth and guide you on your journey to financial freedom. Let's jump into it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The story of two fathers. One has a wall full of degrees and diplomas. One, a high school dropout. One, after death, will leave next to nothing behind except debt. The other will have died one of the richest men in Hawaii and will pass on his empire to his children. Rich Dad guides two boys on a journey to best use their minds and finite time to create wealth through investments and business. This story shows the difference between "I can't afford that" to "How can I afford that?" His poor dad would say things like, "I'll never be rich," and his prophecies became true. His rich dad, however, even after going bankrupt and having $0, would say, "I'm a rich man." There's a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary, poor is eternal. Lesson 1. The rich don't work for money. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. When Robert Kiyosaki
seems there is a mix-up somewhere.
Stephen, are you there?
It's like something happened to his phone. Let's just hold on for a minute. or
Probably his connection went off.
Yeah, if I can discover that,
He's
actually
now. He's there
okay.
now.
Okay.
Stephen,
Hello.
What
Sorry
happened?
about that. My connection just cut out and I was signed out. I had an automatic sign out session at this particular hour, so it signed me out, and sorry about the inconvenience. Signing back in and then we can proceed.
Stephen, the video have stopped playing.
No, the video is on.
No volume.
No volume.
Okay, let me see about that. All right.
They work very hard for little money, clinging to the illusion of job security, 3 weeks vacation, and a skimpy pension. People's lives are forever controlled by two emotions, fear and greed. Here's how the pattern goes. Your fear of not having money motivates you to work harder. Then the paychecks begin, and your desire and greed for new cars, new products, new shoes and clothes begins. You want more things, so you work harder for that promotion. Then the pattern is set, and you're stuck in it. You get up, you go to work, you come home and you pay your bills. Your increased earning leads to increased spending, and this is the rat race. To break the boys out of the 9-to-5 mentality driven by fear and greed, eventually Rich Dad cut down the two boys' wages to zero. Robert didn't dare tell his poor dad that he was working for nothing. They began working solely for the knowledge, and Rich Dad forced them to think of ways to start generating their own income.
Where was I?
One day, 2 older comics were left lying around one of Rich Dad's stores, and this was the inspiration for them to open their first business. They recovered the outdated comics, opened a library in their basement, classmates paid 10 cents for entry, they paid the sister a wage of $1 a week, and before they knew it, they were earning $9.50 a week without even needing to work. This was the beginning of their journey of not working to earn money, but making money work for them. Key lesson. Getting a job is really just a short-term solution, getting enough to pay expenses, to the long-term challenge of building your net worth. The more you get paid, the higher your expenses become. This is human nature, and it's driven by fear and desire. Once you get stuck in this cycle, you are forced to work for someone else the rest of your life. Lesson 2. Why teach financial literacy? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. If you're looking to school to make you rich, then you're looking in the wrong place. The education system's primary objective is to train you on how to become a good employee, but it does a poor job of making you a good employer. Things like managing your own personal finances and building wealth aren't taught to you by the education system in its current state. You can only rely on yourself to use this knowledge and acquire assets that allow you to generate an income. The first pillar of financial literacy and escaping the rat race is understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. An asset puts money in my pocket. A liability takes money out of my pocket. Let's quickly look at the income statement. Your income statement is money going into your pocket. Expenses is money going out of your pocket. Things like rent, food, electricity, and clothing go here. An asset is something that allows its owner to generate an income. On the other hand, a liability generates expenditure. This is the cash flow of an asset. This is the cash flow of a liability. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and the middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. Cash flow patterns. Cash flow tells a story of how someone handles money. This is the cash flow of a poor person. They have a job, they get a salary, they use all their salary on expenses, and they usually live from paycheck to paycheck. This is the cash flow of the middle class. They have jobs, they get a salary, but most of their money is tied up in liabilities and expenses. Home loans, car debt, credit card debt, mortgage repayments, and taxes. They think that their home is an asset, but they wake up one day with a liability column full of mortgage debt and credit card debt. This is the cash flow of a rich person. The rich are always thinking of ways to grow their asset columns. Their main source of income is from assets that they have acquired over time. Your home is not an asset. By focusing on a home, you are building a liability rather than an asset. When it comes to houses, most people work all their lives paying for a home they might never own, incurring 30-year loans that they are tied to. You need to pay property tax, and the rates of these taxes are completely out of your control. You need to pay other home expenses, and the value of your home over time does not always go up. And most important of all, the biggest cost of a house are all the lost opportunities. If all your money is tied up in a house and going out through the expense column in mortgage payments, it's not being used to grow your asset column. Furthermore, think of all the other investment experience that you're missing out on when you only focus on local residential real estate. Here are some examples of real assets. An apartment, which generates monthly payments from a tenant, and the repayments allow you to repay the loan repayments on that property. A business that doesn't require you to be present within.
Your call is very important to us. Please hold.
For poor dad, a home was an asset. For rich dad, a home was a liability. This is how poor dad's income statement looks. Take note of the inflated liabilities. And this is rich dad's income statement. Over time, he has grown his asset column. Most people fall into this trap all the time because they are financially illiterate. They don't understand the relationship and differences between the balance sheet and the income statement. Why people struggle. If you follow what the masses do, this is what your life will become. You have 3 people that you work for. You work for the company to get a salary. You're making the owner and the shareholders rich. If you have debt, then you work for the bank. Your mortgage and credit cards make the bank rich through your interest payments. And finally, you work for the government. The government takes a cut of your money before you have even seen it. And the harder you work, the more you pay in taxes. Take a calendar year. If you're a regular person, every dollar you earn from January 1st to March 16th goes straight to the government. That's 2.5 months of every year that you just give to the government. Compounded over 40 years, that's almost 6 years you work just to pay the taxman. The rich understand this, the masses don't. The main ways to get out of the rat race. Fully understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Focus all your efforts on obtaining assets that generate a cash flow. Keep your expenses and debts to the bare minimum. And finally, which leads us to the next lesson, mind your own business. Key lesson. Life is not about how much money you make. It is about how much money you keep and for how many generations. The key to achieving this resides in having financial literacy. Understand the difference between an asset and a liability. The rich build and acquire assets. The poor and the middle class acquire liabilities that they mistakenly think are assets. Lesson 3, mind your own business. The rich focus on their asset columns, while everyone else focuses on their income statements. Robert Kiyosaki's first professional job was far from glamorous. He was a photocopier salesman for Xerox. Using the wages he earned, he invested into apartments. And after just 3 years, the revenue he was generating from his investments outpaced his salary. It was then time for him to leave Xerox and look after his business full-time. So what are some real assets you can begin focusing your attention on? 1. Businesses that do not require your presence to operate. 2. Stocks. 3. Bonds. 4. Income-generating real estate. 5. Notes or IOUs. 6. Royalties from intellectual properties like music, scripts, or patents. 7. Anything else that produces an income or appreciates in value. Things like cryptocurrencies, websites, YouTube channels, etc. Once a dollar goes into your asset column, never let it come out again. Feed your asset column. Robert thinks of every dollar he puts into his asset column as an employee. Each dollar in my asset column was a great employee, making more employees to buy the boss a new Porsche. And the best thing about money is, it can work for you 24 hours a day, and it can work for generations. Key lesson: don't confuse your profession with your business. The middle class focus on their profession, and as a result, they spend their entire lives building someone else's business. The rich, on the other hand, focus on building their own businesses. Your profession focuses only on the income section of your personal income statement. Your business revolves solely around the asset column on your balance sheet.
So thank you very much for watching, and I guess your appetite has been whetted enough for the next what you really want to continue the video itself. And if you wish to continue, I'll be inviting you to probably follow the rest of the video at Escaping the Ordinary. And I will share that in the chat section with you all, such that you can all have the link to the remainder to watch the second part of it on the channel of the source of this video. So I'll be sharing that in a bit, and you can do well to follow through on that. But before we go, I would like to have the experience of Dr. Yawat and Madame Andong Bernadette. This is the opportunity for you to share your experiences in relation to financial literacy and money management, such that our audience too can be able to learn from your experiences and see where they can fill in the gray areas and equally grow from there moving forward. And kindly unmute yourself, Madame Bernadette, and have the floor, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for having me here. All right, I would like to share my experience with financial management. And in fact, over the years, I've discovered that as somebody who works for somebody, it has only been about paying debts and maybe saving so little. And most often, I find myself maybe spending a lot and then maybe borrowing to add up to meet up with my day-to-day life. Then later, I realized that, okay, why can I not develop maybe a business to top it up with my normal income? Maybe generating, let's say, looking at my skills, what do I have that maybe can add my income without me maybe going for an extra something or learning something else. So I look into, because most often it's important for you to look into what you have personally. I'm talking for myself, because I realize that what you have is what you can give and what you can be able to dwell more, to expand in. So in my normal life, day-to-day life, I've been able to maybe set up a small business than I've been able to maybe do some work, because as somebody who is employed, I have to benefit, because if I have to look at my expenses, I will say that without this without business, I'll really go down. My financial life would be like I'll always be on credit. So this is how I look at financial management: my ability to be able to manage my finance, in budgeting, in investment, in saving, and setting goals. Because whatever you do, you must set goals. Now you have a project, or let's say you have a plan to build a house. So you have a plan to build a house. You have to start by maybe your income, what you earn while you work, could be just like, let's say, 300,000. And then now your bills, your house bills, your health bills, and other bills, maybe your children bills and everything could top up maybe 200,000. And then you start finding yourself that maybe, okay, you need to feed and do other things. How do you cope with that? Because the overall thing is you must save and you must invest. So that is when I started, because while looking at my goals, I was thinking of, okay, I needed to maybe build a house of my own, and maybe get a plot of land and build other houses, real estate, so that I can get more income. And this is what I planned to do. I said, okay, in order to get to where I hope to get to, or to achieve all of my goals, I need not only to focus on what I do or what I work for other people, but how do I top up my finance? Then I started now with a little business. It is true that naturally it will not be easy, because there is no business which is easy, but it is very important to start up somewhere. And that is where I set up my little business, pastry business. There I say, if I have to, because this is a skills I have, you have to use your skills. Or if you don't have the skills, you go for the skills, because there's a way that you can acquire skills in doing whatever you want to do, to top up with your finance, and to be able to acquire the goals, or to set goals for yourself, to arrive at the goals that you have set for yourself. And this is what I do in order to be able to invest and to save more, because the overall plan is not only to get the budget. You can make the budget through, you can get the income through, but if you don't do savings and you don't do investment, you might never arrive at your goal. So this is what I did. I went into my little business. With time, I can say I'm saving maybe 50,000 francs a month. Maybe in like 3 years to come, I must have saved, like, let's say 500,000 or over a million. With that amount, I can get a plot of land for myself, a small plot of land for myself. It doesn't necessarily mean to be maybe in a fancy environment, but I can go to a remote environment, get a house, get a place, a plot of land. Then maybe I get that for myself. Then in subsequent years to come, I look at ways in which I can start building, maybe constructing on the land. That one will be able to help me to be able to maybe that won't be able to help me to give it out for rent. And why I give it out for rent, it can regenerate me some money in order for me to create other investment or real estate that I can be able to maybe help that I can be able to manage my life financially. I would ever say that in this case, financial management for me is so important, because it helps you to live a stable life. It helps you to live a life stress-free, and then it helps us to stick to plans. It helps you not to go bankrupt, and you will not be over pressure with the anxieties. Because one of the things I know is that people easily feel depressed when they are having financial difficulties. And so in order to get out of this, it's very important to start planning as a youth. Maybe you start by the skills you have. What skills do you have that can generate you an income, that can help you maybe to acquire your goals, the goals that you set? And every individual must set a goal, because if you don't have a goal, you will never arrive at what you are or what you want to be in future. So the first thing I will say is that goal setting is the main concern. Set your goals, and then try to see what do you have that you can help you to accomplish those goals. And always try to invest. It doesn't matter how much you do. You can just maybe buy, maybe like Sir Stephen was saying, you can buy maybe anything you can buy that will not need that you pay taxes, because I know in our country it's not easy. There's a lot of taxes that we need to pay, and sometimes we find ourselves, for example, a young guy will want to open maybe a supermarket, and he realizes that the taxes that you have there make you go bankrupt over the years. No, there's a possibility that you can get a piece of plot, buy yourself buy yourself the plot, build build an infrastructure on it, and then you sell it, you put it on rent. That way you'll be sitting in your house and you'll be generating income from there. And maybe with what you do normally, it will be a plus to what you have. So usually it's not very easy, because most of the times we find ourselves that if we fail in that aspect, we fall back to what we call financial non-independence. That's a period, that's a time where you see yourself always on credit, always borrowing to pay, you never meeting up. And like Sir Stephen says, that you don't need to get everything. We have a lot of wants, we have a lot of needs, but maybe you can try by adjusting your targeting your budget. Go for what you can afford, and don't think that you can buy everything at the same time. One at a time. If you don't have, and if you know that you can do without that thing, then you can go ahead. Just buy what is very necessary, because anybody who plans, who has a goal in his mind, or who has a target, always go for the things that are so necessary. The things that you don't really need, the things that you can do without, you can just say, okay, maybe when I'll be financially independent, I'll be able to get all these things, all these facilities. Because as a youth that we are always struggling, and our system is not that easy. It's not very easy for us. So we have to start planning now in order to get to where we ought to get, in order to reach our targets. And we have to start putting our points now. Don't just say, okay, maybe you get there, things will get better. What plans have you made? Make your plans now. Just a little plan, just set it. And bit by bit, maybe you drop something that will help you to get to where you want to go to. Always make sure that you save, even if you, let's say, even if you earn 50,000 francs a month, you can say, okay, maybe this 1,000 francs will be for that project that I intend to have maybe in 2020, 2030. It will help you to go a long way. And make sure that you go within your means. Don't squander money, because there'll be always things like that. You will say you want to buy this Gucci today. Tomorrow you see a new brand. The next tomorrow you see a new brand. And after that, you discover that you're fighting with the anxieties of life. You'll be fighting with the things of life. Get assets, things that can regenerate your money even while sleeping on your bed. Get things that can give you, maybe that can take you to your goals. I think so far that is what I have been able to do. For my goal setting in money management, I'll be able to set my priorities, and I'm focused on my goal. That thing I wish to acquire is what you should be focusing on youth. It is never an easy thing, because as youth, you'll be scrambling, you want to get everything, but know that those things will always come, and new brands will come better than what we have. So if you are fighting, it means that you keep fighting. And as somebody who is employed, then I think that you always be at the deficit. You always be on credit. You always be under pressure, because those things can never end. They will always be there. So that is what I have for now. I don't know whether somebody has something else to add. Thank you, Sir Steve. If there's any other thing, I will chip in maybe as the discussion goes ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Bernadette. And can we hear it up for Dr. Yawat before we close off the presentation of today and give room for reactions and questions?
Thank you very much, Stephen, for giving me the floor. Please, can I share something on the screen?
Yes, you can. Let me stop sharing.
Okay.
All right, carry on.
Yeah, okay. Okay, good. I think you guys are seeing exactly what I'm sharing.
Exactly.
In fact, in the management of money, in the money management, to be more precise, if in case, let's just assume that your salary, you are earning at the end of the month, 100,000 francs, you need to spend a maximum of 25% of your salary to your house rent. If you are above 25% of your salary for a single house, my brother, I just think you should look for another house. So for a person that is earning at the end of the month 100,000 francs, the maximum amount of you can use for your house rent should be 25%, 25,000 rather. For the other end, 150,000. In fact, you are seeing the figures on the screen that I'm sharing. So it simply means that there are some people that you will see in these our daily activities that ends, like, let me just assume 100,000 francs. But their house, when they want to live in a standard life, that let's assume they are on their basic month-end salary, they are spending 50% of that same salary just for house rent. Trust me, at the end of the month, that person will not save even a single kobo. So this will just make us to, if you want to survive in this our money management process, you need to be very, very disciplined. And the discipline will come from you to put in practice some certain obedience. You need to set up your mind that if my salary is this, if you can go beyond lesser than 25%, that makes it perfect. Because let's assume it will then not vary from the town in which you are living. Let me just quote you an example. If you're living in a town like Yaoundé, where we know how the demography in Yaoundé is so intense, a house of 25,000 francs will not be very, very easy. But if you succeed in having a house for 25,000 francs, my brother, just know you are very fortunate. The rest of the 75,000 francs that will remain will be very, very useful. You might save from the saving that you do from all, let's say for a long period of time. You can easily purchase a piece of land. And from that same piece of land, that is how we can, you yourself can identify that you are somebody that earn 100,000 francs, but at the end of the month, let's say at the end of the month, he has his saving 10,000 francs. It doesn't look normal. That's not really acceptable. So at the end of the month, you should be with a minimum amount of 25,000 francs. Let's just assume that you spend 25%, that means 25,000 francs for your house renting. The other 25,000 francs you save it for your save. Then the 50,000 francs, you might use it for your daily activities, for your feeding, for all the distraction. Whereas you have 25,000 francs that is being kept in a secure zone. And the other aspect that I will emphasize will be, all of us, we need to set some certain standard. I'll put an example on my personal self. I started developing those attitudes when I was still a student. When I was a student, I had a limited amount of 20 francs that I would save. When come rain or sun, that amount, when whatsoever happened, I will never touch that amount. I call it the security banknote. I use that amount when I'm facing extreme difficulties. So saving is one, but saving with a credit card at hand is putting yourself into temptation. I'll quote an example. If you are saving amount, saving money, and you had a credit card at hand, the day that you will feel like not realizing your dream, you go to the credit card at the closest ATM.
Forget
and you know what will happen.
ATM. What about Momo?
Let's assume about the Momo, my brother. You just say, okay, let me just remove 10,000. Let me just remove 10,000. You will start by removing 10,000 in the morning. You find yourself in the evening removing 50,000. And again, and the next element that we emphasize is discipline, discipline, and discipline. I'll quote an example to illustrate what I'm emphasizing on discipline. If you are a working class, as I always say, if you want to save money, work with those that save money. You cannot be a working class and all your friends are those guys who are who knows they have the address of all the bars in town. What do you think? As soon as you start to take your head up and look in the sky, forget, my brother. that bank account will be finished before the 15th of the month. So on this basis, that is where what I will emphasize: saving, discipline, and to be more precise, having a very, very good way of dealing your personal finance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yawat, for your presentation. We really appreciate your inputs there from your personal experience and with savings. I guess we've all heard from them, and we are moving forward to the last bit of this, and conclusively, we've all heard about the various strategies on financial management, and we've all heard, based on the video, which we equally had the time to watch and reinforce our learning of all what we said from the beginning of this session. And financial literacy is fundamentally a key skill for you to learn, and it's one of those skills that are not taught in school, but it's something that we will use for the rest of our lives. And we wish somehow, and it begs the question, why don't they teach financial literacy in school? Ask yourself that question. Tomorrow, you might be the person who is setting out the policies in government, and it's important that we have financial literacy included within the school curriculum, such that we have persons who are able to deal with the basic small finances that they have. Yeah, and for the question which Flavian asked earlier on, he raised the question about what about those who are dependent on the employees, the self-employed, the business owners, and the investors. If we had skills on financial management, we will notice that we would be in a better position to use those years and what we receive as allowance, pocket allowance, which is equally our own income, in order to better save well and then use it proactively for the days ahead in the future. When you stop being a student, and a good number of you, when you probably graduate from after your first degree, probably your parents say, okay, you're now good enough to maybe stand up on your own and then face life. Others advanced level. And then for those who don't have parents, they probably have been fending for themselves right from the very beginning. But the skills of financial literacy are essential and necessary in helping us to make informed decisions and then achieve financial freedom and financial well-being. Hence, if you found this lesson worthwhile, I would equally encourage you to take the time out to share the content and the videos, to which I've shared the link in the chat box. You can have access to the part 2 of it, and then learn from that experience what you can do in order to simply improve on your learning and reinforce your learning and try to put this into practice. So my assignment to you all who are listening is that you take what you've learned today and start applying these practices in your everyday life. Let it be something that moving forward, you live it consciously. You're aware. Before you spend a cent, be aware of how you're spending it, where it's going to, and ask yourself the question, do I need it? Remember, needing something is not the same as wanting something. A need is something that you cannot do without. Something you want is something you can do without. So ask yourself the question, do I need it, before you purchase? And another key thing which you would learn when you watch the second part of this video is challenging yourself by the 1% of your monthly income. That is, if you wish to buy something, give yourself one day. If you go to the market and you find something and then you convince yourself that you need it, give yourself one day before you purchase it. Come back after a day. You must have had time to think over it. And then you notice that maybe the feeling you had at that point in time is not what you still have at maybe after the 24 hours have elapsed. And a good number of us, one thing you should always know is that we first of all buy into a deal based on our emotions, and then we use our imagination to rationalize it and then tell ourselves that, no, we needed to do it. And that's what we do all the time. We do it all the time in order to justify what we have done, which we probably know is wrong, but we are convincing ourselves at that point in time that it's right, whereas it isn't. So giving yourself that one day period gives your mind the time to equally think over it, and then you equally have time to sleep over it. And when you sleep and then you reanalyze your thoughts again the next day, you'll be sure to make a very good decision. So challenge yourself. When you find something and then you really feel like you needed it, give yourself one more day, give yourself one day before you spend 1% of your monthly income. And So some of the learning resources which would engage you in as a result of this are, you'll have something on further reading, because we really recommend that if you've been a part of this program and you've been a part of this process, I encourage you never, ever stop learning. Keep learning. And you begin that first by reading. There's a whole lot of information hidden in books. If only we would flip the page. Our society is already ripped off with persons who do not like to read. And when that culture of reading dies in us, we are prone to be prey to all what happens to us, and then we find ourselves unable to manage anything within our means. So first thing first, read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And when I say read the book, it's not that you must read the book from cover to cover. Challenge yourself, a page a day, or maybe you give yourself 15 minutes a day just to read. Take any one of the books, pick them up, but have this as your to-do list to go through them, such that you can be effective, you can effectively manage your finances. Robert Kiyosaki, though to my very experience, I have my own reservations to him, yet at the same time, he gives a very practical lesson when it comes to financial literacy. Hence is the reason I'm recommending the book. And Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is based on negotiation. And one of the things which Chris Voss always reminds us is that negotiation is an act, is not an act of battle, it's a process of discovery. And the goal is to uncover as much information as possible. And he makes us understand that the minute you say no, you've already started a good negotiation. And oftentimes a good number of us are yes people. Before somebody tells us to do X or Y, we have already said yes. Take time to really reflect on the question. Like someone reaches out to you, they want you to do something for them, and probably the pay is not so good enough. It's your negotiation skills that will help you in order to really make a good deal out of it. And at times too, even in your business ventures, for those of you who are entrepreneurs, you will find Chris Voss a very, very good read. Never Split the Difference. He's one of my first choices, which I would recommend to anyone when it comes to understanding financial literacy and making a good deal, especially in our world today, especially with people who work smart and they earn much as a result of working smart and not hard. And for those persons who combine working hard and working smart, they always make a very great outcome of this. Then Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is a very timely one. The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It talks about wealth, it talks about greed, and it talks about happiness. And one of the things which all of us CIPians should watch against is greed and the ego. Watch against that. It's a very, very big vice against us, because your greed may be one of the things that will lead to your downfall in your businesses and your event and in your appetite to get financial freedom and attain financial well-being. So watch out for greed, because greed is a very great vice against this. And then The Total Money Maker by Dave Ramsey, and then Start With Why by Simon Sinek, because Simon Sinek would encourage you to ask yourself the question, why do I need it? So when you ask yourself, do I need it? And you answer the question, I need it. You ask yourself, why do I need it? I'm bringing in this here because starting with why is the beginning and the genesis of every good idea, of every good business deal. So if you're able to ask yourself the question, why, you will be able to attain the answer that you need in order to get to everything. A good number of us know how, we know why. We can explain, we can tell somebody what we want to do. We can tell the people how we are going to do it, but a good number of us do not know why we want to do it. If I ask a good number of you, why are you on this program? A good number of you may not necessarily give me the answer, but you know what you're going to get out of it. You're going to get certification out of it. You're going to get access to some professionals, which you've already had the opportunity to meet them one-on-one. And then you've also gotten the opportunity to meet other persons and get other resources and probably knowledge, which is given free of charge, because those are the what's of this program. And the how's about it, it's you logging online. And then moving forward, the why about it, it's the why here for the CIP program, which is always a very difficult question to answer, is to engage the mindset, to encourage persons to dare to think, and to make sure that we change the narrative after we have dared to think and after we have engaged our minds in fruitful ventures. You can also visit the various websites, as you've seen the websites online in order to get it. Investotopia is one of them. So talking about the books which I was referring to, based on books on businesses, you feel free to take a snapshot of the screen for yourselves, because you will find some of these books very interesting. They have been my favorite reads, and I'm recommending them to you because it's really been very helpful to me too as an individual. And then my personal favorite by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. In this world, you get what you ask for. You just have to ask correctly. And that's what Chris Voss will teach you in Never Split the Difference. So thank you very much for your keen attention. And we apologize for taking extra of your time. And we wish to just simply get your reactions and your feedback on all what we've discussed on this session of today. The floor is open for questions, answers, remarks, and recommendations and reactions. Please feel free to pose your questions. We are listening. Raise your hand if you wish to ask a question, and I'll be sure to give you the floor. Yes, Ronaldo, go on, unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor, and greetings to everyone that attended the session. I want to begin by saying it was wonderful. It was an excellent one. And those my question does not really actually go. I want to know and ask when will be the next session, because if that's one thing I haven't gotten for the closing remark, and for this kind of event like this, I really wished we have it as we have access and we can have them more in days to come or in some months, weeks to come soon. And for the teachings, I've learned a lot, so much, and I've gotten so many things maybe I was doing which was not right, or maybe how I was earning and how I was spending my money. I've gotten so much too, and I think it was excellent. That is what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your reactions and for those very choice words of yours, Ronaldo. And in response to the question which you asked, we will have a session coming up on Friday, which I'll have the session on Friday, and the session the session is on the topic entrepreneurship and career coaching and career development. So it's going to be presented by two persons over the Zoom call. The links will be shared later on social media for persons to get. And then equally, those who participate in this session today, based on the pools which we've received, then we'll be able to reach back and give you the details. Most of our sessions begin 2 p.m. moving forward till about 4 p.m., 2 hours a day. And they mostly end by 4 p.m. So between 2 and 4 p.m. we mostly have sessions, and that will be on Friday for the next session, unless otherwise stipulated, and we have something that comes up immediately, probably tomorrow or the day after, and so forth. We will communicate it, and you will equally be in the loop. Thank you very much. Any other question or reaction? Yes, Clovis, go on, you have the mic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Stephen. I was so much impressed with the direction of your presentation, and most especially throwing more light on what Robert Kiyosaki highlighted in his book, The Poor Dad and the Rich Dad. As I follow up the presentation, I discovered that where I am, of course, like when you spoke about the different types of persons, people who are self-employed, employee, and also investors, I was imagining if there is apart from the whole aspect of managing the funds, if there's a way to just to bridge the gap between a self-employed person and those who are investors. That's my lone concern, because as I discovered myself as self-employed, now we've all discovered that I cannot go for vacation for 6 weeks, for 6 days, and money keeps coming. So how do we balance that? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Clovis. And it's one of those things which we can say it's the harder question to ask. And if you listen through most of the presentation, you notice too that when Robert Kiyosaki was sharing his experience, first of all, he was working for someone and he was earning a salary probably below 10 cents or so. And all of a sudden, the person too was willing to teach them the trade and how they can become financially stable. And when they finally opened up and they reached out to him, the person slashed the amount he was paying, and then they actually had to work for him for free. But in exchange, what were they getting? They were getting knowledge. They were learning the ropes and the trade around how to become much more financially resilient. And it's from that learning that they were able to build upon what they were able to do. And we take the typical example that was shared within the presentation, the example of getting a bookstore and then beginning it and then charging people to come in for a fee. Maybe a bookstore where they just simply rented comics. You know, comic books are books which children like to engage in. Lots of them like to read comic books where they see those pictures with cartoons being drawn on it, comics being drawn on it, animated figures there and then they watch through them and they read through them and they read the actions. But they have to pay something for it, such that it's not just so free, but they pay maybe a smaller amount compared to what they will pay at a normal comic store. So those are some of the things. You look for the areas where you can exploit in order to make money out of it. What can you really exploit in order to make money? For example, I can decide to explore this very particular training program which we are hosting on CIP, and then decide to start asking a modest fee for it, which is probably still a very small fee of about 2,000 or maybe 3,000 francs CFA just for registration. And then register, I start making an income. Now that makes me self-employed at one particular point in time because I'm probably able to provide for my data. It takes care of my income. It takes care of my expenses like the data which I use in order to host some of these sessions. And then equally takes care of some of the other expenses like electricity. It takes care of some of the other expenses like transportation, getting to meet some of the persons who will probably present on this and then still give me enough to maybe give back to them as a result. But we are doing this all free, and it's not because we believe that giving these services to humanity, it's an added value, not upon my personal loan, but upon the persons that we are impacting their lives as a result of it. And it's because we believe that Africa needs to, the change of Africa begins with us. But if we place it at the price tag, it becomes too difficult for people to get it. And that's why we're leaving it at a very free price, such that each person can get the knowledge that they need to get and then impact their communities. And then we can jointly impact the change that we wish to see in our society. But it begins with you, Clovis. I asked you the question, I throw it back to you. What do you think you're doing right now that you can do in order to double the income that you're making? If you're able to challenge yourself and engage your mind on that, you will be able to find the answer that you need. I've already shared my answer to how I can make this a means of doubling my income. I'm spending on this right, and probably it's credibility which I'm getting at the day's end, which is still another potent source of income, because income to itself must not necessarily be liquid as in the case of physical cash, but income too, as in the essence of credibility. How credible is the information I'm sharing with you? Is it valuable? Is it useful? And I'm getting the feedback from you all, and probably it is, I do not know. And maybe at the day's end, you tell me if it was worthwhile or it was not worth the while. And that's how it moves forward. So the question is back in your court. What do you think you're going to do right now to double the income that you have on what you're doing as an employed person, from what you've saved apart as what you wish to invest? How can you double that income? How can you make that 5,000 that you have double itself by next month to maybe 10,000 francs? You would definitely find the answer, and it works within your strengths and within your skills. Any other question or reaction? Clovis, I hope it's okay. Clovis?
Yes, it's okay. Thank you. Yes,
All
it's
right.
okay. Thank you.
Any other question? Looking at the chat box, there is no question in the chat box. All right. So for the Folefak, I think you asked about the next webinar. If you look in the chat box, I've shared an image of the next webinar, and you can see the details there, but the link will be shared later on. So just keep in touch. All right. So
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other reaction? Any question? Then we can see how to gradually recede to the end of this wonderful session which we've had, and for your wonderful participation and for your wonderful questions, which have been very thought-provoking and engaging. I'm still waiting. Yes, Clovis, your hand is up again. I would like to hear from someone who has not spoken too. So if you've not spoken, please say something at least. Yes, Clovis. Or was that a mistake? Belinda, your hand is up. You have the mic.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon once more.
Good
I'm really
afternoon.
sorry for being late. My light issues have not yet stopped, so I was just struggling to catch up.
Okay.
My question is concerned with the courses we have. I've been at the presentation, leadership presentation, but I have a problem with the business concept. I've gone through it like severally, and I'm not able to validate the course, so I don't really know what my problem is.
Okay, so that's the business concept on the effective leadership for the courses that we were offering. Yeah, okay, effective presentation.
Yes, sir.
All right. I believe, what are you using? What's the medium of interaction you're using?
I'm using my phone and Mozilla Firefox, like you advised. Yes, because I tried the other ones and I had issues with it. So when you advise we use Mozilla or Chrome, I downloaded the Firefox.
Okay, and you're still facing challenges to complete it?
I struggle with the other compulsory courses except the effective presentation, and it's the business concept that's the problem with me.
No, I do understand. I think it's with the area of doing the presentations where you have to move images into certain areas on the PowerPoint presentation, right?
I see.
That's the area, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine and good. We'll discuss about it after this. Is there any other person who has difficulty like this? Then we can get it up and we can attend to it such that you all complete those modules for the HP Live courses. All right, silence means everyone is okay. And moving forward, we have a reaction from Engelbert in the chat box, which says, thank you so very much for this knowledge on financial intelligence and the intention of introducing this into academic curriculum. Thank you very much for your reaction, Engelbert. I think well noted. Thank you. So basically, we are saying that we are all through with the first set of sessions, which first set of HP Live courses, which ends today. That's following our program for the program. For the CIP program, I think you should have finished Success Mindset, Effective Leadership, Effective Presentations, then Finding Funding, Social Entrepreneurship, Basics of Finance by now, except for the persons who have indicated that they had problems completing effective presentations, which we'll get back to you later on that. And then online webinars, we've had goal setting and personal development, and we've had effective communication, which was given, the two given by Mr. Nane Edmund, one of our partners at Urutin. And then we had leadership and teamwork, which was done by Professor Ngalib Valentine. And we've had financial literacy and money management today Then we are pending emotional intelligence and well-being, networking and professional relationships. Networking and professional relationships will be handled on Friday alongside entrepreneurship and innovation. Then we shall be looking forward to emotional intelligence and protection from sexual exploitation and abuse on Saturday, as well as career development and coaching on Saturday. So do keep an eye out on that. Either Saturday or Thursday, one of these 3 pending sessions would be addressed in one of those days. So we move forward, and we've been the team at your service, myself, Stephen, and Dr. Yawad Ansam Michelle, who is the programs manager, and Madam Andon Bernadette, who is the participants manager. And you know always where to contact us, either through the WhatsApp platform, through our WhatsApp handles, or through the kfprograms@gmail.com email, which you can always reach us with any request that you have. Feel free to write us, and we'll be able to get back to you on any assistance or support that you need. Then our team leads and partners, so far, you never had the chance to see them from the very beginning because we had a technical difficulty on the day of the presentation, but here they are. We have Madam Marceline Tanko, who is the Executive Director for Family World International, and you can see the logo below. And we have Akere Achu, Christopher Akere Achu, who is the founder of Akere Achu Advisory. And his advisory is one of those organizations that really focuses on career coaching, and it equally focuses too on career development. So you would find that they are a very good firm on the human resources consultancy. Their services are focused on organizational development and career transformation with the vision of changing the narrative globally. And they focus on CV building, career coaching, motivation letters, and scholarship application letters, via vocational vacancies, applications, etc. Then for Family World International, Family World International is simply the organization that seeks to emerge the humanitarian broad sphere through family-centered approach to supporting vulnerable populations in 6 thematic areas. Those areas include health, education, protection, economic empowerment, research, and consultancy. And in accordance with, they all do this in accordance with Cameroon's updated vulnerable children and adults policy, which was done recently. And so that's what Family World International is. So it's a humanitarian NGO, non-profit NGO based in Boya. And it has offices in Bamenda, it has offices in Kumba, it has offices in Douala. Then SunSafe Solution is founder, it's Wambe Felix Mekila, and he's the founder of SunSafe Solutions. And SunSafe Solution is a climate resilience and adaptation company aimed at harnessing the power of the sun to transition from fossil fuel consumptions to solar power lighting of homes and communities in Africa. And they have been able to provide their services in Cameroon, and they intend to do so to about 500 homes in Cameroon by 2024. And they wish to eliminate the use of bush lamps and kerosene lamps in order to light up houses, which is basically still being used in some of our villages here in Cameroon. So those are the services they provide, and they have been very wonderful in instrumental. And then Routine itself, it's an organization that focuses on challenging the mindsets. It focuses on the production of newsletters and magazines, which they encourage a culture of reading in young Cameroonians and probably even adults as well. And I believe we all saw Mr. Nane Edmond in one of our previous sessions, which he gave us a talk on goal setting and personal development, and equally on effective communication. So he's the founder of Routine, and he's currently the president of Writerspace Cameroon, Writerspace Cameroon, which is a global network of an empowering African writers network in Africa. So basically, Routine focuses on what I earlier said, and they really wish to see that the world is much more better, and young Cameroonians imbibe that habit of reading and that culture of reading such that it becomes a part and parcel of them. And so basically that's it for routine, and they are our partners. They had the chance to talk to us. Some of them still hope to get to talk to us probably during the closing ceremony. They'll be on air with us in order to congratulate you all for the job well done. So far, for those who have completed the HP Live courses, congratulations. I've received the emails for those who have completed, and for those who have decided not to complete, unfortunately, you know the rule. The rule is the rule, and if we are here at CIP, we mean business. And for those who do not complete the required modules and the required number of hours, unfortunately, we would have to decline on giving you certification on completing the program, and probably only those who succeeded. And so we are CIP. And so we go again with our slogan, CIP. Unmute your mics, please, everyone. CIP.
Engage the mind.
CIP.
Dare to think.
Think.
CIP.
Change the
narrative.
Okay, we go one more time. CIP.
Engage
the
the
mind.
CIP.
Dare to think.
CIP.
Change the
narrative.
Thank you very much, and see you in our next session on Thursday. It's been a pleasure, and I've been honored to be your host, and thank Dr. Yawa too for his availability, Madam Andong Bernadette, and you all for really making it present on today's session and collaborating and sharing your insights. We look forward to hearing from you all in the next session, and come ready with your ideas, come ready with questions based on the topics which we have shared, and make sure that you make the session much more engaging. Thank you very much for your input.
Thank you, sir.
Unless there was some other thing which Dr. Yawa wanted to include, our co-hosts, then fine, you can always chip in. All right, so if we're not getting any feedback, please feel free to sign out at your convenience. And I'm currently stopping the record right now.